Supergirl! Just how lame is the script? Let's get into it.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Jim Cyril and Tanya Klein here from Coverage Inc., the leader in screenplay analysis, development, and editing services since 2002. And hope you're having a super day today, Tanya.
I am, actually. So we just saw Supergirl, and we actually went in there expecting to hate it because everyone's been raining hate on this movie. And, well, no, we did not hate it. In fact, I liked it a lot more than I liked Superman, because for starters, it had things that Superman did not have. For one, a coherent story. For two, it was lacking plot logic holes you could drive a truck through, of which Superman had plenty.
Wow. Okay. Well, Tanya, you contrarian, you.
I kind of mostly agree with you. I don't think it was a total disaster, but I do have a lot of hesitations and, a lot of problems with the script that I think we need to get into.
And by the way, there will be some spoilers coming up. So if you have not seen the movie and you do not, you don't want it to get, spoiled, so stop watching.
You have been warned.
Quick recap of the plot of Supergirl.
So Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, is off-planet with her CGI dog Crypto, drinking and enjoying red sun life. She doesn't have any powers under a red sun, so she can get sloshed out here, unlike Earth. She's about to turn 23, which doesn't really make any sense because does Krypton even have the same calendar and solar cycles and distance from the sun as Earth? But whatever. Meanwhile, on the same planet that Kara is drinking on, a master swordsman and his family get wiped out by a bad guy named Krem, who might as well be named Bad Guy since that's about as much development as he has, who wants all of their priceless weapons. It doesn't go well for the family, and the only survivor is irritatingly plucky 13-year-old British girl Ruthie, who barges into the local pub Supergirl just happens to be drinking at and announces her father's master sword is a bounty for anyone who hunts down and kills Krem for her.
And then, of course, Supergirl gets dragged into it when her dog Crypto is injured by Krem and has only 3 days to live, and Supergirl has got to get the antidote to the poison from Krem.
Right, so she and Ruthie join up, kind of, sort of, and they go off to solve their mutual problems, and that's basically the setup for the movie.
So, Tanya, what are your thoughts?
All right, so let's start with script structure. Definitely, they followed the Save the Cat template to the letter. Structure very sound, but also to the point where it felt a little bit like paint by numbers, and we could foresee some of the twists and turns. And they weren't twists and turns because we could see them coming from a mile away. For example, the little, the tea is poisoned. Yeah, we knew that way before Supergirl, which made us wonder, well, isn't she supposed to be smart?
The composer kind of really shit the bed on that one because the music cues telegraphed exactly what was going to happen before it even happened. And as soon as the music started getting dark, I was like, oh yeah, of course.
Ruthie getting kidnapped at the low point of Act 2 going into Act 3. Yeah, we could see that coming from like 10 miles away.
Look, it definitely followed the typical, hero's journey, save the cat, et cetera, a hero with 1,000 faces, movie structure to a T, to the point where, it had the ticking clock, it had the escalation, it had the, okay, now here's the downtime where we're going to have a character wear the mask of the mentor and blah, blah, blah. All these things look so, the script is not a train wreck. It's just, the writing could have done more to sort of hide those things and make it a little less obvious.
Number 2, character arc. So Kara had a definite character arc.
Yep.
Her character arc, the end point is Earth is home. And we find her starting out, gallivanting around the galaxy going, well, maybe Crypto, maybe we should move here. Maybe this could be home. So it's clearly she's a homeless character. And at the end, she discovers that Earth is home. So the arc is there. However, the scenes in the middle that could have and should have supported the arc didn't really do the job. For starters, we get quite a long sequence in the middle where Kara loses Argo, where she loses her family, where she loses the world she had known. So
Wait, we got to explain that. Look, Kara is from Krypton. Argo is the breakaway city that has left Krypton and survived for 7 years. It's never clear whether these are Earth years or Krypton years, whatever. The movie plays kind of fast and loose with that sort of stuff, but has survived for 7 years without Krypton, just as a domed city floating in space.
And they discover kryptonite has become loose and is poisoning everyone on Argo. Kara loses her parents, and her dad, as one of his final acts, he builds a ship, a similar one, sent Superman to Earth, and he sends his daughter together with Krypto to Earth.
And by the way, all of that is as boring in the movie as it sounds. Okay,
yes,
this entire thing could have been done as a montage, or they could have really leaned into it and made more out of it. You know, like really make her feel like someone without a home.
Yes,
it
and that
arrives like a lead balloon in the middle of the movie.
And that brings us back to the original point, which is it didn't really support the character arc. What would have supported the arc would be Kara arriving on Earth. We see her actually later on, Superman waiting for her. She arrives on Earth. She does not speak the language. She's basically an adult. She's lost everything. She's on a foreign planet where she doesn't know anybody and she doesn't speak the language. And she is not like everybody else.
That's a key flaw, I think, in the movie. More hay should absolutely have been made of that. You know, show Kara in school, show Kara unable to fit in with people, show her struggling with English or her accent being a problem. All of that is completely missing. And we go from she arrives and she doesn't speak English to all of a sudden now she speaks perfect American accented English. And by the way, hat tip to Millie Alcott for doing a very good American accent.
Exactly. All right. And then still going to character arc, it felt like there were remnants from previous drafts in there that didn't quite fit anymore. For example, Kara's insistence that Ruthie does not take revenge on the bad guy that killed her family because she wants Ruthie to keep her innocence. So that kind of did not make sense. I mean, if we want to parallel those two character arcs, well, that could be possible if we know of, for example, an instance where Kara felt like she lost her innocence because she took revenge on someone. But that doesn't exist. So we don't know where this whole, keep your innocence, don't, kill the bad guy comes from. It seems to come out of nowhere. That also brings us to the relationship between Kara and Ruthie, the two leads.
Yeah. And by the way, like you were saying before, Tanya, with sort of feels like vestiges from another draft, that feels like a vestige from another draft where they cut that and replaced it with nothing.
Okay, so first of all, the character of Ruthie doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
First of all, she's very precocious and she seems to be, and on the one hand, very skilled. On the other hand, she is baggage that gets in the way a lot.
And she keeps showing up. Kara tries to get rid of her like multiple times. There's like 3 times in the movie where she just shows up. She's like, I stowed away on that ship. I hid in the cargo hold. I did. Like, really? I'm like, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, is she an obstacle? Yeah, sometimes she is an obstacle. And sometimes she gets her own story where she manages to get out of her cell. When Lobo, who's next to her in the cell, is not able to do that. So again, who is this character? Let's define her more. And if we define her more, then her relationship to Kara actually makes a lot more sense. I know you want to say something about their heart-to-heart scenes, Jim.
Yeah. I mean, those were just contrived. They did not feel organic. Basically the characters, Ruthie She exists solely to pull backstory out of Kara in those scenes, but it doesn't happen in an organic way. We haven't seen Kara reacting to her trauma that is ostensibly, the thing that is driving her deep down inside. We don't see any of that throughout the movie. Kara is just, sort of like, or whatever, I'm going to get drunk, not my zoo, not my monkeys, whatever, dude. And yet, I'm supposed to be good because that's what my parents told me to be.
Yeah,
That's fine.
absolutely.
But where's her damage? We're told about her damage. We don't see her damage. And so when Ruthie pulls this out of her, it feels clunky and grafted on because the whole time, like when Kara finds Ruthie and realizes what just happened to her and her family, shouldn't we see some sort of reaction on Kara's face where it's like, oh shit, because this is her,
Yeah.
but that isn't there in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. But the problem with that also is that the character of Ruthie has not been set up really as a mirror. Ruthie just lost her family. She just lost her world. She just lost everything that she has ever known in one violent incident. She is at the point that we're sure Kara was at before she started, drinking her emotions away.
That we have to assume Kara was at. Unfortunately, the movie doesn't show us. It's one of the weaknesses of the film. And
Exactly.
also on a minor thing I wanted to point out is the whole death sequence of Ruthie's family. Like her father's a master swordsman and they're living on some planet and they all speak with English accents, and then these brigands come in. The entire sequence feels like it was lifted from a Game of Thrones episode. And like, how does any of this make sense in like a comic book sci-fi world where the dad also has these incredible robotic weapons that he unleashes on the bad guy that literally blows up the bad guy's ship, and yet he's a master swordsman and his swords are well known throughout the galaxy, and like the whole thing just doesn't compute. Anyway, it's a minor thing, but
Yes, but it's true. Absolutely.
Okay, what next?
Plot quibbles. For example, when Kara just lays there in the cave as the green sun shines down on her and she's waiting, she's dying, but then we're waiting for the yellow sun, maybe. I mean, I'm sorry. Either the character, the protagonist, should at least attempt to do something, or we should have other factions like the allies she made do something.
Right. And this is where the whole, structural thing kind of falls apart, because ideally this is the allies that the protagonist has made during the journey that come back to help the character when they're at their, point of lowest ebb, black moments, that sort of thing. Or the hero receives a speech from a mentor who then gives them the missing piece of knowledge that they need to overcome this crisis and get themselves out of a jam. None of those things happen. Instead, and by the way, we're talking about the at the beginning of Act 3, Kara is taken out by the fact that she's on a planet that has shifting green. It's between two different suns, green sun, yellow sun. She gets her power from a yellow sun. When it goes green sun, she loses her powers and becomes sickly because I guess green bad. I don't know, somehow or another this is related to kryptonite. It doesn't make any sense. It's never explained. Just go with it. Okay, green bad, yellow good. So Kara does nothing to save herself. Her little sycophant does nothing to save her. Lobo, who we'll get to in a second, does nothing to save her. She literally just lays on the ground until the sun's change phase and the yellow sun comes back up again. It's like, okay, and then she comes back to kick ass in the end. That was lame. Okay.
Agreed. However, since you mentioned Lobo, quick word about Lobo. What a cool character, and Jason Momoa rocks the part. He's perfectly cast in this part. He's clearly having a great time.
Born to play Lobo.
We're waiting for the Lobo movie.
Yeah, Born to play Lobo. And, James Gunn, dude, what were you thinking, man? Like, the movies that you greenlit, before this, we saw a preview for Clayface, and we're like, Clayface? When Lobo is on screen, you can't take your eyes off him. He's charismatic. He's a cigar chewing badass. He's like Arnold circa 87, but with like a cool space motorcycle and a freaking hook with a chain. And, you know, it's like, yeah, that's the movie we want to see. We don't care about any creature commandos. James Gunn, what the hell are you thinking, dude? Anyway, Lobo's great. He does, however, going back to structure again, he comes back in Act 3 and does the Han Solo return, which was entirely predictable. And like, he's like, yeah, okay, bye. He leaves. And then, of course, you know, 15 minutes later, he's back. Like, why? Because.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but now to the biggest quibble. The antagonist.
Yeah.
The antagonist is one-dimensional and lame.
Yeah.
Uninteresting.
Creme or something? Creme?
Cream. Cream?
Creme. I think it's creme, and I kept thinking like creme de menthe, like creme in my coffee. I think somebody said cream at some point, and I'm thinking like, oh yeah, it's getting near dawn. Boom, 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 boom. Like, I'm sorry, but yeah, flat. We know nothing about this guy. He has no personal connection to Supergirl at all. He's just a brigand. That's what they call a gang of hoodlums who exist to be bad and do bad things.
Not even that difficult of an opponent to, you know.
Oh, that's another thing. All of a sudden, he had superpowers. You remember, like halfway through, he like flies.
Yeah.
And Supergirl throws him like 100 feet, and he survives. Like, oh, okay. I guess his species that we saw being taken out in varying ways along the way through normal means, all of a sudden has superpowers. Like, huh? Lame.
Yeah. So, ready for our star rating, Jim?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it, Tanya.
6.5 out of 10. It's not as bad as people say it is. It has good moments. I like Millie Alcock. It works, however, there are, as we discussed, quite a few problems, and basically I think they could have worked a little bit harder on the script.
All right. You know, walking out of the theater, I didn't think this movie was that awful. I actually thought, it was actually not bad. But, its flaws have been eating at me, which includes some of the things we talked about in the video and more, not the least of which being like Supergirl's powers kind of conveniently scaling up or down depending on the needs of the scene, or, her forgetting certain powers that she has, like her super breath, or forgetting that she can use her heat vision or x-ray vision, or just so many things, just like, the repetitive alien bar scenes, like there's like 3 of them. Ruthie's like bizarre ability halfway through the movie to suddenly like take out a brigand twice her size and climb up a cell and escape from it when she had exhibited like no skills of any kind up to that point, and then she escapes through an air vent, which is just like the tropiest of tropes. And then, who could forget Ruthie conveniently just happening to bring along Supergirl's suit for her so Supergirl can actually put it on in the final third of the movie.
And the question, of course, is why, of all the things, why are you bringing along clothes? I mean, weapons? I don't know.
Yeah, and her explanation was stupid and contrived, and they couldn't think of a good reason. So and the reason is because the plot needed it to happen. So here's the deal. So many of these things that are just little things, you can kind of
add up.
Them.
Yes.
But they do add up, and all of this could have been fixed with some proper script development. Have they forgotten to do this in Hollywood? Does James?
Yes. The answer is yes, Jim.
I just want to paraphrase Alan Ng from Film Threat before I give my final number. There are a lot of people in Hollywood who've paid good money to go to school and learn to write screenplays. Maybe they should have considered hiring one of them. It just ultimately felt like it needed more development. So I'm going to go with a 5.5. Not a total train wreck, but not a great movie either. But hey, if you're a fan of DC Comics and super whatever, maybe consider giving it a shot. Who knows? You might like it.
All right. And with that, you can always reach us at info@coveraging.com.
Thanks for watching, folks. Please like and subscribe, and please do hit that notification bell, because that tells the algorithm that we exist. And we will see all of you guys in the next video.